It is definitely possible to have renewable energy powering AI.
Mindset shift is the bedrock of a revolution.
And this is coming from especially solar and wind. This is where AI will have to play a very, very transformative role for the energy sector. It will have to help in forecasting and scheduling of the renewable energy better, in terms of optimizing of the grid operations.
Okay, I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a minute.
See, for any system to work, you will definitely need to have a monitoring and evaluation authority.
It may be possible to do energy trading at a hyper-local level.
Is AI going to take my job? Do you think we've lost sight of the goal and we're kind of going back to square one? All right, so we have Rajesh Kasturirangan and we have Rishu Garg. And it's going to be a fun podcast. It's going to be very simple, no pressure. And we're going to talk about something that's actually close to all of our hearts: artificial intelligence. So, before we bring in the hero of the day into the conversation, I want to ask Rishu, can you paint a picture for us about renewable energy? Tell us about its trajectory, because I feel like ever since its inception, it's kind of enjoyed a life of its own. So, talk to us about the generation, the distribution, the consumption of renewable energy since the last few decades.
Thank you, Crystal, for inviting me to this podcast. I think it's a very important topic to be discussing, and I'm fascinated to be here. So, in terms of the question about generation, consumption, and distribution of renewable energy, or for that matter, energy. It has been a fascinating time over the past few decades, and there has been a fundamental shift, if I can say so. So, if you talk about from a technical standpoint again, India's installed capacity as of now is 476 gigawatt, and of which roughly around 48% comes from the renewable energy, which is 227 gigawatt. And this is coming from especially solar and wind. So you have seen a shift from a very fossil fuel dominated energy sector to a very renewable energy focused state. And so that is the shift that we see in terms of generation. And now this is again going to move from centralized to decentralized renewable generation, where we, as per the India International Energy Outlook, so by 2035 we are going to see around 4000 gigawatt of rooftop solar installation in the across the globe. So this is how you see the generation being shifting its parameters over the years, over the last few decades. And in terms of consumption, I guess again from consumers are becoming prosumers. There is a growth in the demand. We are also going to see growth in demand doubling by 2050. So this is again because of the transport electrification. There has been electrification of the industrial processes. There has been changes in the consumption patterns of the consumers, and also increasing demand from data centers. So this is how we see the shift for a generation, distribution, and consumption of renewable energy, or energy in particular. So, and I feel that this is where AI will have to play a very, very transformative role for the energy sector. It will have to help in forecasting and scheduling of the renewable energy better, in terms of optimizing of the grid operations. And this is how I see AI playing a role. I hope that answers the question.
It does, and I'm actually really happy about the fact that Rishu spoke about artificial intelligence, because that helps me seg into my next question, which wherein I want to bring in Dr. Rajesh. Weigh in on how artificial intelligence, help us spark this dialogue between artificial intelligence and renewable energy. Help us understand the role that artificial intelligence has played in helping renewable energy actually scale to this point.
Thank you so much for this question, Christelle. AI means many different things to different people, but where all AI systems excel at is making complex systems more efficient. So power distribution is a complex system. As Rishu pointed out, we are moving towards a decentralized energy system with many, many producers. Every rooftop solar is an energy producer. And so, if there is a way to combine different energy sources so that when I need energy, this grid supplies me, and when you need energy, my solar supplies you, that's an AI problem. And that's the kind of thing that AI has always been used for.
I think that's a very good explanation. And Rajesh, I'm sure this next question is going to be your favorite because you love AI. And I want to ask you to build upon this and to talk about the breakthroughs, Rajesh, that probably artificial intelligence has had in the last few years, or what you think is possible. You think there's real potential in AI being able to do this.
Wow. I mean, there are so many possibilities for AI. But let's stick to the energy world because that's what we are talking right now. Imagine if electrification of the transport sector takes, it's bigger and bigger. And at the same time, autonomous vehicles become bigger and bigger. So autonomous vehicles means cars and trucks that don't have a driver, right? So if our transportation is going to move in the direction of non-human driven electrified vehicles, those could be entirely run by AI, right? So imagine that I mean, we are in Bangalore right now. It was most people in this room have come here because by plane or by some form of transport. So imagine that the scheduling of the taxi from the airport to this studio happened automatically, right? And you just spoke to your phone saying, I want to go to the airport. I am taking flight so and so to Bangalore and I want to get to this podcast venue, and everything is arranged for you.
Wow. I think thank you for putting it into such a realistic perspective, one that we can actually, like the tangible impact of artificial intelligence. That's perfect. I think since we've started this podcast and we've kind of been celebrating artificial intelligence's moment in the sun, but I'm going to talk about hurdles now. So, Rishu, I'll come to you first, and then maybe Rajesh can elaborate on the technical standpoints. When we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about existing energy infrastructure. And usually, these existing infrastructures are built on legacy systems. Now, I think we've got to acknowledge that legacy systems are outdated. And when I say outdated, I'm talking about how they're not conducive for artificial intelligence to actually be integrated in them. Are we on the same page that yes, this is a challenge, this is a hurdle, this is actually something that's happening? And what are your thoughts? How could we tackle this?
Yeah, definitely we are on the same page. So, in terms of existing infrastructure, definitely when the infrastructure was built, it was not built to handle two-way power flows or to talk to the AI based models. So that is, I think, one of the biggest issue with the AI system and our legacy infrastructure of energy sector is the interoperability. So that is the first challenge, that I would say, first hurdle that we have to tackle. Then another thing that I think with AI is the data quality and availability. So I think Rajesh will accept this point that AI thrives on data. So there is what the kind of data that you serve the model, that is the kind of output you will get from from AI. So right now, I think in the energy domain, we are not in a space where we have that quality of data or even all the digital inventory of each of the asset or each of the power flows are not there. So this will become a major issue going forward, and unless we have that. Then third is in terms of the skill gap. I think the capacity building, both at the utilities level or at the policy makers, the regulators who regulate the processes in the system, in the power system, they need to have some capacity building training programs for AI based systems.
I think Rishu has listed out all of the challenges. And so now we are going to have Rajesh talk to us about solutions in terms of from a policy making perspective and also from a logistical perspective, what can be done.
As Rishu was speaking, I was just thinking about, when I was a kid, we had steam engines, we had diesel engines, and we had electric engines when it comes to trains. Now, as far as I can tell, there are no steam engines. So slowly we phased out steam engines. I used to take the either Tamil Nadu Express or GT Express from Delhi to Chennai, right? And starting from Vijayawada, you would have a shift in the form, right? It was diesel until Vijayawada. And then because Southern Railways was electrified first, if I remember, you would have an electric train from Vijayawada to Chennai, approximately, right? So these transitions are slow, they will take time. There's a possibility. I feel like it has to be managed really well, but India's energy consumption is going to increase enormously. Richu mentioned doubling, right? So most of Indian energy is going to be renewable energy. And so there's an opportunity, therefore, to integrate AI or these optimization techniques from the very beginning.
If I can just add, I really appreciate the point that Rajesh made on helping the operational level people understand the importance of AI, because this is what we have also faced when we go and talk to the people in the officials at distribution companies or generation companies in the power sector. You talk to the managing director, CMD, they understand how this needs to be done. But when it comes to the operational level, people who actually manage the system, they don't understand this. So it is very important that this thing is percolated down from top to bottom to these people, and then I think surely there will be some transformation that we can see.
I completely agree with Rishu. I think that's a very valid point that you made. And I want to add that I think with every revolution that we've seen in history, mindset shift is the bedrock of a revolution. So I think even in artificial intelligence, if we have to see this evolution and revolution, we need a mindset shift. This brings me to my next question that like we've discussed, I think artificial intelligence is this multifaceted entity. Everyone has a different take on it. But if there's one thing that the entire world is on the same page for, it's that artificial intelligence democratizes. Whether it's access to information or in this conversation, access to energy, it's doing that. And it's democratizing access and affordability to renewable energy sources. Rajesh, your thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a minute and say that in principle, yes, it might democratize, but there's also the possibility of dramatic consolidation and centralization, right? So, what I mean is, by nature, solar farms and wind farms are decentralized, right? It's not in one place. But AI might actually help a couple of operators own all the wind farms and all the solar farms. So that democratization, therefore, has to go hand in hand with greater ownership stakes, which is also possible, right? So I feel like AI is going to throw up so many new challenges of who owns the energy sources, who operates them, whose whose energy needs are going to be prioritized. But that's the future.
Valid point. Rishu, are you on the same page as Rajesh or do you have a rebuttal?
I think we are on the same page, but I'll just add a bit on from a energy access point of view. So I think AI will have the potential to identify some underserved areas based on their consumption patterns, based on their demographic data. So this is where I think AI will have that potential. And in addition to that, I think a lot of participation and transparency of the entire ecosystem. That is where I think again AI will help. So this is again coming from our experience when we talk about this P2P energy trading, where there are rooftops and EVs, talking to each other, and then how the system is building. So this is happening. One of the pilots is happening in Uttar Pradesh. So this is how I think it will help democratizing, but it will take time. That is, it has long way to go.
If I may build on that a tiny bit, I do think that because the source of the energy is local, it may be possible to do energy trading at a hyper local level, right? Which is to say, if you are a farmer, you may need energy during the day when you are running your tractors and ideally electrified tractors, right? But if you are a school student, you may need energy at night to study. So I may be able to trade the fact that my solar rooftop serves you when you are needing the farm input right now, while your wind farm will serve me when I need it at night.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way of looking at it also. All right. Next question, and I want to hear both your thoughts on this. It's about whenever we talk about artificial intelligence, I think there's a tendency to view it as this all supreme being, all knowing being. But we often forget that there is a human at one end of the spectrum who's actually feeding an algorithm into the artificial intelligence and telling it what to think, which is when the artificial intelligence can actually go about and solve problems. This brings me to my question of bias. Do you think that, yes, there is a bias that AI has? And especially in terms of renewable energy, will this bias lead to a discriminatory outcome wherein the access to renewable energy sources is going to be unequal across different diaspora? Rajesh,
All
I'm
right.
going to put you on the spot.
It's a wonderful question and a hard question, right? Very brief lesson on the kind of uses of AI in such a context, right? So imagine a town with, say, 10,000 families, and you have a source of energy, and of course, you want people to pay for that energy. So if I am willing, so just like surge pricing for Uber or Ola, you can imagine that in the evening, there will be surge pricing for energy demand because everybody wants it. They're all home. They all want to enjoy, dinner and TV, and they want to sleep well. So, how do you, if there is an algorithm which is learning people's energy uses, and it privileges people who have more money to pay and say that they will get it, then you are potentially denying those who don't have it with a source of energy, especially for maybe essential things like children studying and things like that. So you would have to have regulatory authorities that prevent such kind of biases from being institutionalized, right? The algorithm itself will not do it. What you mentioned earlier, there has to be a human in the room who says that this is fair and that is how this should be done.
Absolutely. Rishu?
Yeah, completely agree on that. See, for any system to work, you will definitely need to have a monitoring and evaluation authority who is regulating the entire system and understanding that there is, at the end, there is justice, that no one is left behind. So in terms of energy access also, this is how the governance has to play a role, and regulators will have to play a role. So completely, I think Rajesh has put it very nicely, so I completely agree with that.
All right. I'm going to ask you all to address the elephant in the room whenever we talk about AI, which is the ethical implications. And there's a lot to talk about here. Rajesh, I'm going to start with you. So
Mhm.
I think the jury is still out on the dangers of data privacy. Talk to us about it, because if we're sitting here, we're talking about how artificial intelligence is going to come in, it's going to disrupt the system and make it better. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that there are real dangers of data privacy associated with this.
Again, fantastic question. There is no best answer. So let me try to give a decent answer. The privacy issues for AI are at every scale, really, all the way from geopolitics to, you know, my neighborhood. So at the geopolitical level, the fact that AI companies are mostly in the West, their server farms are mostly in the West, which means that the data is typically housed in the West. The value of AI increases the more it knows about me, right? But then again, it knows more about me. So, um, how do you do this trade off? I feel at some level it's too early, and I don't think this should be killed with regulation, right? Like there needs to be a technical fix to it. There may have to be technologies. I'm thinking maybe crypto cryptology types of technologies that allow privacy to be done by default, right? Which is to say that it's not enough to anonymize data because you know people who live in a neighborhood are often like each other. So the fact that I eat things that are very similar to my neighbor means that even if I'm not personally identified, um, somebody like me is identified, right? So there have to be ways of putting a firewall between maybe AI processing that can be done close to the source. So the fact that there is a computer that maybe does local algorithmic processing, so for my village or even for my home, but that processing's outputs are not visible to the layers further up. Maybe that's one way to do it. But we will have to come up with architectures that preserve privacy. That's for sure.
Right. But are you also essentially implying that dealing with AI is going to be a constant walking of the tightrope between, giving AI the leeway to say, hey, you have all this capacity, do what you will with it, and safeguarding people's personal information?
This has been, I would say, the challenge of modern life from the beginning, right? Because let's take something which we think is very boring, the census. Census is great because once you know how many people are there in a country, how old they are, where are they being born, where are they dying, you can design policies that are more fine grained, right? You can say, oh, our population in this state is increasing at this rate, and so they need more child services. So data always helps, but it can also discriminate. We cannot escape this challenge, right? We always Now some of it can be done through regulation, right? But I also think that there need to be technical safeguards.
Right. I think until now, we've been talking about AI through a bird's eye view.
Mm.
We've been talking about a holistic perspective. And my next question is going to appeal to everyone in this room. And I think every person in the audience who's watching this, which is at one point in time, all of us have felt, is AI going to take my job? And this fear is gripping the public conscience, whether we admit it, whether we don't admit it. Rajesh, I'm going to ask you, this is a valid fear.
Mm.
Let's not talk about whether it's valid or not. I think we've all had it. But how do we tackle it? What can governments do to ensure that people are not scared that, AI is going to step in and kind of disrupt the entire system?
I mean, let me first start by saying that it's a legitimate fear. I think median age in India is around 27. So we don't have to assume that we will only have the jobs of the past. I mean, let's take renewable energy. Now, imagine distributed energy sources, as Rishu was mentioning earlier. If I'm going to trade with my neighbor, I need to know how to do that, right? So there are all kinds of new possibilities for, you could say, smart jobs that are going to emerge, even in places that you did not have that before. Uh, so I would say that the biggest challenge we have is educational, right? Like, how do you train Indians for the future? And
Right.
yeah.
Fair point. And I think maybe, even at an organizational level, if something could be done to say that, okay, here's this all knowing machine that has booming potential and that can essentially do anything, it has unimagined possibilities. But we're not forgetting that there's this essence of the human being that no machine can ever replicate. I think. I think that is the secret to cracking this. I don't know. I'm just being hopeful here.
I'll just
Yeah.
want to add, I think, again, from an sector point of view, there is lot of fear with the traditional roles which energy sector has to play in terms of meter reading or in terms of the control room operations, which people are thinking that AI will take over and there will be no job left. But right now we are seeing that even with these smart meters, you need some human intervention to understand, to analyze that data. Smart meter will give you the data, but who is going to analyze it and make sure that the system is working smoothly? So this is where I think human intervention will have to play a role, and it will be there. And I think I'll agree with what Rajesh said in terms of the education. The skilling and reskilling programs have to be very, very fast paced, and how AI is working. So I think that will make a huge difference. Another point I think I'll like to bring in is about the how government is taking initiative in bringing AI to the fore. So recently, a Ministry of Power had come up with this India Energy Stack, which talks about creating a seamless, secure, real-time grid operation and coordination across all the segments of power sector, whether it is generation, transmission, or distribution. So I think once you start creating these kind of digital public infrastructure for the power sector, that will play a big role, and that will make people understand that it is not just taking away your job, it is making your life much more simpler and smooth.
Right. Rishu's answer is pretty hopeful. And this, my next question is my favorite question. So, while researching for this conversation, we came across something antithetical. Okay. So, there's obviously a lot of training that AI models need when you're kind of feeding in the data, and there's high computational power that's involved in the process. Now, this also leads to high energy consumption. It's a domino effect. We can't ignore that. A lot of countries, interestingly, are reviving their coal plants to provide for this energy, to introduce AI into their systems, to move towards a safer, cleaner, and greener future. Now, it's ironic and it's also counterintuitive because do you think we've lost sight of the goal and we're kind of going back to square one, wherein we're undoing all the good that we've done? We're trying to phase out fossil fuels. Rajesh, your take?
I read recently that you know, so nuclear plant construction in the United States stopped after the 3 Mile Island disaster, right? But I just read that Microsoft might actually um, help revive the 3 Mile Island reactor because they want to put an AI data center right next door to it, right? So it is definitely possible to have renewable energy powering AI. Now, of course, nuclear has other challenges associated with it, but assuming that we agree that it's some form of renewable energy, um, I feel that if we plan for this well, and especially a country like India where most energy production is yet to happen. So we don't have to revive shut down coal plants. We should just make a lot more solar and wind farms. And I think that it doesn't have to be a either or. I mean, we are a energy poor country, and so all of us need a lot more energy.
Right. I'm actually glad you spoke about renewable energy because when we talk about artificial intelligence and using renewables, so there are two options here. The first option is let's future proof Indian AI systems, because if Indian AI has to take off, why not have it hand in hand with renewable energy? And the second option is that if India is going to rely on AI providers outside the country, why talk about this now? Maybe this is a conversation for another day. On which side are you, Rajesh?
We should definitely future proof our AI, but we should just generally future proof our development pathway, right? I mean, we need to not just have better AI, but we need to have better transportation. We need to have better water and electricity infrastructure. So it's best to do it in a way that is, adaptive to climate change and its impacts. So the more renewable you make it, the more likely it is that it'll stay future proof.
That's interesting. So, what you're saying is that artificial intelligence is just one vein in this growing ebb of development.
Yes.
And we just need to look at it with, we need to look at the bigger picture instead of a myopic viewpoint.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Rishu, talk to us about, we've spoken about the environmental implications of using AI. What do you think should be done at a policy making level, especially since you come with this rich repository of experience in renewable energies? I'm sure you kind of want to advocate for these energy systems. So, what can be done?
So I think thanks for that question, but I think there's a lot that is being already done from the government. So if you talk about there is a revamped distribution sector scheme that talks about IT OT integration and use of smart meters in the power sector. That itself is a step towards AI. Then there are renewable energy management centers that are being put up, which will help in better forecasting and scheduling of renewable energy and better accuracy of demand projections in the system and optimize the grid operations. Then there are a lot of utilities who use AI and ML for again load forecasting and managing the demand side management programs for themselves. So these are some of the initiatives that the government is already taking in terms of the policy innovation and the regulatory setup. So in terms of addition to that is, I think we have already spoken about that a lot in terms of again the capacity building and the training programs. Skill building is very important in this case. And another point that I would like to add is of the local innovation system, bringing developing these algorithms at the local level and making sure that it is useful for the local system. That is where the crux lies.
Absolutely. Rajesh, anything to add to this?
I mean, I again, going back to the AI is a subset of development, right? I mean, we did leapfrog from, you know, um, fixed line telephones to mobile phones. I mean, and in some sense, mobile telephony in India is as good as anywhere in the world. It's cheap, data is also very cheap. So that's an example of how we used a new technology to create a whole new economy, right? Actually, we wouldn't be in this room if mobile telephones didn't exist, right? Because almost everybody who's going to watch this podcast or hear it is going to do it on a mobile phone. So I hope that AI does something like that for us.
Absolutely. I think that is the hope.
Mm.
And my one of my final questions is, at what point do we trade our futuristic vocabulary for a vocabulary of now? Now is the moment. Let's dive into these waters. Let's embrace AI. Rishu, maybe you want to take this and then we can go to Rajesh. Is now the moment?
Absolutely. I think AI has the potential to change from centralized to personalized system, to make access to empowerment, and also in terms of making people more transparent and participative in the entire journey. So definitely I would say that this is the moment that we have to start talking about AI, like as we are doing in this podcast. I think this is a good initiative that we are entering into. So definitely future proofing our development, and from an energy sector or a power sector point of view, this is very very important, because there is lot of things that still need to be done, and it will take a lot of time. So I think it is a right time to start investing ourselves into it.
Rishu says it's the right time to start investing ourselves. Rajesh, your thoughts?
I disagree. Now is not the moment. Yesterday was the moment. Uh, we are, in fact, we need to run hard to catch up with what's happening. And we have the people, we have the talent. We can only dream about the possibilities, but we need to do it really quickly.
I think everyone would love to agree to disagree to this point. And as everything we do at the Better India always ends with an aftertaste of hope, my last question is, please paint a picture for us of the future of energy in terms of generation and consumption. Leave us with an aftertaste of hope. What is the potential, Rajesh, and then Rishu?
Indians' access to energy will really liberate this country. And renewable energy, which is decentralized, where you have community ownership over it, where you can decide how much you want and for what purposes, that will unlock the future of this nation.
Rishu?
So there are a lot of things I want to say, ending on this note. I think AI will have a lot of potential to make systems from acting as reactive system to more predictive system. There will be an opportunity of self healing. AI. We talked about the infrastructure, legacy infrastructure. So this is something that you can talk about equipment failures. There will be predictive maintenance, and in terms of empowerment of consumers becoming the prosumers, they can manage their own consumption, own generation. This is, I think, will become a truly transformative journey if we see from now. So this is the hope that we take with us, that AI will be able to achieve all of this.
Right. To conclude, AI holds real promise for transforming the energy landscape. But realizing this potential requires addressing technical obstacles, dealing with ethical concerns, and ensuring inclusive, responsible use. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to type your thoughts in the comment section and subscribe to our podcast. I'm your host, Christelle. Thank you for listening in.